hi there. I'm Evelyn with Magellan College Counseling, and I'm so happy to be here today with Gianna Mack, who is an admission officer at Pepperdine University. And she also was a student at Loyola Marymount University. So today we're going to talk about the religious vibe on those two campuses and what it really means to attend a religious university. I think people have a lot of questions when they see that a college is affiliated with a religious denomination. So for Pepperdine, Gianna, where you work, they're affiliated with the Church of Christ, yes?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what that means and how that plays into a student's experience at Pepperdine.
Yeah, great question, Evelyn. I feel like there's so many questions, especially when it comes to faith and what that looks like at Pepperdine, which is a great question to ask, especially when coming in and looking into the school, potentially being a student there. And so at Pepperdine, we do identify as a Christian university, and that is thank you to our founder, George Pepperdine, who was a member of the Churches of Christ. And so with that being said, that does not mean that all of our students identify as Christian. About 70% of our students identify as Christian, while the other 30% identify with another faith or no faith at all. But truly all that we ask of all students is that they're open to those conversations of faith.
Great. And if I'm enrolled at Pepperdine, I will have to take religious courses. Will I have to attend church services? What are the numbers and what does that look like?
Yeah, so when it comes down to our chapel structure here at Pepperdine, we do have a structure in which students do have to take courses. And so I'll go ahead and break down what that'll end up looking like. So we have what we call chapel, which will include those core chapel courses that students have to take their first and their second year. And so the core chapel entails a moment where students will go ahead and have praise and worship. They'll hear from speakers, and then they also cover prominent broad topics. So topics such as love, truth, goodness, and beauty. So those four themes are actually going to be the core dialogue and conversation that students will be having when it comes in conversation with faith, but also what just those topics look like in their life. And so core chapel, they are required for all first year and second year students. Now, we also do have connection chapels. Those are more specifically breakout groups that students will have to take their first and second year. And that's for students to connect their interests, but also what activities they're interested in with also faith. And so some of the different activities students will take on are hiking, yoga, Bible study. It really is up to those students to choose what they would like that to look like. But those breakout groups are called connection chapels, and students are required to take that their first and their second year. And then those also will be around those four themes that I initially mentioned as well. And then lastly, our first year students are required to take they're called Rise Together chapels. Now, Rise is a group on our campus, an office on our campus that stands for Resilience Informed Skills Education. And so they want to host these just for students to go ahead and look at the 6 pillars of resilience, what that looks like in their life, but also what that could look like throughout their few years at Pepperdine, so that, you know, there's so many challenges, but also great times that students endure throughout their time in college in general. And so Rise is a great office on our campus that really supports our students and in their first year wants to be sure to introduce them to those resilience tools and tactics that they can utilize. And so that's an overall breakdown when it comes down to our chapel program and the different courses and sequences that students will have to take.
Okay, that's really helpful. So when you talk about those core chapel courses, is it an actual course that students take for credit?
Yes, it is. And it'll be on one day out of the week, and it will be counted as a course for students.
Okay. And so everyone first and second year takes that?
Yes. So everyone first and second year will take the core chapels and then also the connection chapels. And then just our first year students will take the Rise Together chapels.
And on the connections chapels, do you get to choose which sort of breakout okay.
So you'll choose, but it'll just be one. So it's not like you can do hiking one time and then you go on Bible study the next time. It's more like you would just choose hiking and then
you're going to spend the whole semester hiking.
Spend that time. exactly. It's been that time within that.
which in Malibu, where you guys are located, is not a bad course.
Right. We have the mountains right behind us, but then also we have that ocean there. So it
Right.
really is up to students how they want to spend their time, which activity draws toward them.
Right. Okay. And so if I am Jewish or Catholic or Muslim, or like you said, not affiliated, and this, I guess this is where it's difficult. If I'm not religious in any way, Pepperdine might not be a good fit for me. Do you agree with that?
So it really is up to the student. And what I like to say is, yes, we do identify as a Christian university, as long as you're open to dialogue of faith
Right.
with other students, as long as you're comfortable with being in a setting that is a Christian university.
Right.
It really is a moment where you'll have time with your peers and with your professors to have those conversations, to ask those questions, to talk about what you like, what you dislike about faith. I mean, that we are here in college to pick one another's brains and to really hear other perspectives as well. And
Absolutely.
so if anything, it's a moment for students to go ahead and grow and to hear other perspectives as they would in the real world and any other day. And so college at Pepperdine, we really want to introduce students to those conversations so that they're comfortable in exploring what that looks like for them in their personal life, but also comfortable in having that foundation and having those conversations within their life.
Okay, that makes sense. And in your third and fourth year, when you've done the core chapel and the connections chapel, are there any additional theology requirements?
Great question. So there are not. Our third and our fourth year students, we really allow that time for, okay, the first year and the second year, they have that foundation, they understand what faith looks like, they explore
Yeah.
that third and that fourth years for students to go ahead and explore that in whatever capacity they would like. I mean, there are clubs and organizations for students to have the opportunity to join or even create. Students can also engage with our hub for spiritual life on campus. And so if they are looking for that outlet, then we do have our office here. And then of course we have our chapel here on campus. So students are always welcome to those services. And then for students who are, they don't wish to engage in that manner, then of course they would just take on their regular majors, minors, and whatever academic coursework they look into.
Okay. And going back to the other religions, are there staff on campus that support students of other religions? So for example, when I'm looking for a Jewish student, I look for a Hillel group.
Okay. So I would say when it comes to students who identify outside of Christianity, we do have, I normally suggest that students look into our clubs and our organizations that we have. And then also just overall, our hub for spiritual life is not only for Christianity, they are there to also allow students to just grow in general in their faith and whatever spirituality, what that looks like for them.
Okay, super. And so, okay, that's really, really helpful. And so now put on your other hat as a Loyola Marymount graduate. How would you describe the religious environment and culture at Loyola Marymount as it's Jesuit, yeah, LMU?
Yes, Jesuit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I see them as, in terms of them both being liberal arts institutions and also grounded in faith. I see both LMU and Pepperdine similar in that way, in terms of allowing students to ask those questions and engage with faith. But also when I was a student at LMU, I was able to take classes that engage with Christianity, but which was of my interest, but also that engage with my academics and with gender and with women equality. And so it allowed me to really look into topics that interests me, but also that connected with my faith background. And so I really did feel prepared for the world. I mean, I took courses like philosophy, and I took just a range of courses that I never thought that I was going to take, and I wasn't the most excited about. I like to be honest about that, but in the end, I actually did like much better in those classes that I wasn't the most excited about, that were required, than the ones that I was actually interested in, which was a surprise to me, but also allowed me to see like, okay, these are things that I can still be passionate and interested in, but maybe I can look into these other topics that I'm required to study, and they could be hidden passions and hidden skills that I have. So
interesting.
it really allowed me to explore, like, personally, what I was interested in versus what I might have a natural ability to do. And so it allowed
Right.
me to kind of see who I am and then how I can connect that to who I want to be.
And did you ever feel like religion was being pushed on you either at
No.
LMU, or would a Pepperdine student feel that way?
No, so of course I can only speak toward being an LME student because that was all that I was, but I did not feel pushed when I was a student at all toward a certain religion, faith, background, anything of that nature. And then at Pepperdine, I mean, as a staff member, as a faculty member, I am able to engage with students, and I on a daily talk with students who don't identify with any faith at all who attend
Okay.
Pepperdine,
Yeah.
and they told me word of mouth that they do not feel pushed. They just are more exploring and having those conversations and asking those questions that allow them to have even more knowledge when they go into certain spaces. And
Yep.
also just to see personally what that looks like for them. So it looks like, based off of being the student, but also the conversations I've had with actual students at Pepperdine, it's allowed
Mhm.
me to see both sides of the coin at both LMU and Pepperdine, and to see that it similarly aligns in that way.
I feel like the common thread of what you're discussing for both is it's, college is a time to be open to
Right.
learning
Right.
things that you may not have planned on learning in
Right.
college. And that's, you know what, you're absolutely right in that you're a perfect age to be having those conversations with people who aren't like you. And the way the world is different today than it was when I was going to college, and when parents of college students were going to college, is the world has many more opportunities for you to interact with people who are not like you. And
Yeah.
so college is a place where you really need to prepare for that.
Right. And I mean, we're in such a diverse world that you'll end up interacting with so many different people from so many different backgrounds, as you said. And so I like you hit it right on the head. I feel like college was and is a time to really just build that foundation and have those diverse skills, but also to hear different perspectives that'll grow you into who you are. So
When you started looking at colleges, did you plan on going to a university that had a religious connection? Was that part of the plan?
not at all. I initially thought to myself, I thought that I wanted to go to like a bigger school, just
Yeah.
because up until I had conversations with you and my parents, of course, I was like, I don't really want to be too seen. I kind of more
Oh,
of a
right.
social butterfly, and I want to see new faces each day. But that still remains true. Even at a smaller or a medium university, I was able to still see new faces because there's so many different schedules that you have, different times. There's more morning people, nighttime, different lunch schedules that people have. So I always would see new faces. And so I really do feel like it's important. I mean, not only having a smaller community in the social scene, but also in the classroom, it allowed me to really get to know my professors. If I was unsure about something, I never felt nervous to like, they don't know me. They wouldn't even know what my email was. If I were to email and try and schedule a meeting, they wouldn't say, who is this? They would know
Was this
exactly
right?
who I am.
Yep.
So I really do admire that about the smaller universities.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a little secret you dropped in there that I didn't say at the beginning, which was that I worked with you when you were deciding where to go to college. Um,
Yes.
so I was going to let that slide.
Oh,
But it's okay. But what I love is the way you described a liberal arts college as a place where you can be social and still get to know your professors and the people around you, because I think that people dismiss a college, frankly, that's smaller in number of students than the high school they went to, because they think I want a huge,
right.
we call it big sporty spirited,
Yes.
and you can have that experience of meeting new people every day, even at a small or medium-sized college. And I think most people don't think you can.
Yeah, and I had that same perception when I was in high school. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's a little hidden gem from this interview. Thank you for
yes.
taking the time to talk to me. We covered a lot of stuff, and my goal was really for people to get a better feeling for the religious environment at Pepperdine, and then as a bonus at LMU, because you went there. So
Yes.
thank you for elaborating on all of that. And it was great to see you.
It was great to see you as well. And just final remark, I want to be sure you also know this is our pilot year of our chapel structure. And so what I
Oh,
just introduced is completely, this will be our first year doing it. So
oh,
I was
interesting.
glad to be able to hop on this Zoom and really explain what it looks like, especially because we are going through this transitionary period. So
Great. Okay, that's good to know. Great to know. Thank you so
of
much.
course.